I mean, the writer goes in with this fighting attitude. The writer is just ready to fight. Like one-on-one, you and me. Let's fight, let's have a duel. Okay, so genetically modified foods or GMOs. Yes, yes, I knew it would ring a bell. Yes, you're already thinking of two different, I don't know, camps, believers, people, those who are diehard supporters of GMOs, and they say, yeah, it's a life-changing situation. We need to feed the world. If we can modify the food production in a way that we can feed more people, then the world hunger will be over. We will be able to reduce the price of food. Everybody will have something to eat, and it's for the benefit of everyone. All right? But at the same time, you can also hear that, oh my God, you're altering nature. And it's not always good when humans try to change nature for their own gains and their profit. Yeah, I know. But that's the topic, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to IELTS Juice. We are going to assess an essay with this topic. There are serious concerns, correct, about the sale and production. Sale and production. So we need to focus on marketing and also on the way that things are being produced, on the way, the methods that they are produced. Our food is actually being produced in this case, of genetically modified food. Yet, this is necessary if we are to meet the demands of an increasing world population. Pay attention to the words, increasing world population. So from the IELTS perspective, the world population is going up, and we have no choice but to use genetically modified food to give food to these people so that we can fight hunger. Okay. The essay type is stated here very, very clearly. What is your opinion on this? It's an opinion essay. It has only one main idea. We need to address it. So throughout this essay, we are going to focus on your opinion. Yes, there are serious concerns. Yes, some people are for this, some people are against it. Our job is not to support them or tell your audience, in this case, the IELTS examiner, what other people think. What matters most, and the only thing that matters here, is your opinion. You may talk about other people's opinions, but remember, you need to talk about them in the purpose that you want to show or boost your own opinion. That's important. So at the end of the day, even if you're going to talk about other people's opinions, you need to tell me why I'm listening to other people's opinions and not yours. And the reason should be that you talk about them so that you tell me how bad their opinion is and how good your opinion is, so that it further convinces me that your opinion is correct. Let's read the candidate's response now. Advancement of novel. About the beginning, it doesn't start very well. Maybe the advancement of, or the advancement or in novel scientific approaches. That's much better. Or if it's more than one and it's better to generalize, you can say advancements in novel scientific approaches in almost every field of science. This half a line, this half a line, or more than half a line, is your subject. And this is your verb, actually. This is your verb group. It's a present perfect tense. There should be no punctuation marks between the subject and the verb. So this is meaningless. Has led to substantial amendments in people's lives. You might say, oh, that's an error, Kasra. This people is plural. Well, no, it's not an error. Yes, and yeah, I know it's going to sound weird. Yeah, you can pluralize the word people, which is already the plural of person. The meaning changes. When you say peoples, it means groups of nationalities or groups of people with certain ideology or groups of people with different backgrounds. So when we say peoples, we might immediately we need to think of people in Vietnam, people in China, people in Turkmenistan, people in India. So peoples, or you can say again people, like people at working age, the retired people, I don't know, housekeepers, children, teenagers. Again, these are people. You can say peoples from different sectors of society, from different age groups, from different religious backgrounds. You can group them, and then you can pluralize the groups of people and call them peoples. Lives all around the world. Biotechnology, in particular, genetically modified GM food. This is the correct abbreviation when we talk about food only, not all organisms. So GMO, genetically modified organisms. In this case, we're talking about GM foods. Again, I say foods. I know you may check and you may look up the word in your dictionaries, and food is uncountable. When you say foods, you are talking about the variety of different foods. And you finish the comma here. So biotechnology, yes, and in particular GM food, has brought about many choices which can improve the world's, better to say the world, apostrophe S, can improve the world's population status undoubtedly. Sounds fair. We have another subject with a verb, and in this part, in this sentence, we talked about biotechnology, and it's a very good connecting info to our very first sentence. Some people, however, claim that there are some major concerns related to the cultivation and marketing of GM food. I like the attention to detail. In my opinion, in as much as all these thoughts are baseless, we can look at GM products as the best solution for tackling food scarcity globally. Wow. I like the writer's opinion. It's stated very clearly and confidently with considering both sides, and the writer clearly mentions the side that he doesn't agree or she doesn't agree with, and then explains the one that he or she completely agrees with. I love this thesis statement. The framework of the essay is now completely created in my head. Let's move on. To begin with, some assert, oh, that's a good word, some assert that GM foods, that's fine, are unnatural, hence unhealthy. I would have added one comma here. They believe that consumption of crops, so this topic sentence, before I carry on, this topic sentence is going to focus on those people who believe GM foods are not natural. And I am reading it because I know the writer doesn't agree with this particular group. They believe that consumption of crops which have undergone consumption, which has this refers to this one singular, which has undergone genes alterations, contributes to increased health hazards, especially, I need a comma before this, cancer and Alzheimer's disease. Spelling the word Alzheimer is not that easy because it's not or originally an English word. It's a name of an individual. I think it's a name of a German scientist or a German physician. And one thing I just wanted to add is we don't need to say genes alterations. We can simply say gene alterations. And one thing I think I need to double check is that I believe it's not about the consumption of crops that have undergone gene alterations. It's the crops which have undergone gene alterations. So we don't need to change this have to has, because it goes back to crops, not the consumption. But I couldn't understand it until I fully read the whole sentence. It's okay. This is fine. It's not an error. Even the fact that I have to read the entire sentence to come back and modify as we go doesn't necessarily affect the scoring here. So I'll carry on. The fact that the reasons of such diseases are still unknown makes them factor the GM foods as the potential source of these illnesses. Factor the GM foods? What do you mean factor? They factor in the GM foods as the potential source of these illnesses. It means to consider. Because the factor in is a totally different word. It's a phrasal verb or a verb phrase. Factor is completely different. So this changes the meaning. This can potentially damage the reader's understanding. I hopefully look at it a little bit lightly here, but pay attention that phrasal verbs may look similar to the original verb or to the verb when it comes alone, but remember, they may change the entire meaning of the entire sentence. Touching on the negative role of GM foods, I do not see eye to eye with the opponents. That is, those who are concerned about utilization of GM products, for two compelling justifications. I mean, wow. First, we introduced the writer goes in with this fighting attitude. The writer is just ready to fight. Like one-on-one, you and me. Let's fight. Let's have a duel. Okay. So, and the writer says, you go first. It can be like a game of chess. So the opposite side plays with white, and the writer decides to play with black pawns. So now they're in this game, they're in this duel. The opposite side makes his or her first move. The first move is that we have these genetic alterations, and these genetic alterations contributed to some health issues with our nations, and that's risky. We should stop it. That's the mindset. Then the writer stands up, makes his or her move, and says that, well, the reason for these diseases or the reasons are still unknown. And the writer says, yes, those are the concerns, but we don't see eye to eye. It's now my move to counter it. Another thing I would like to say, the accurate use of dash here Basically, you may say, Kasra, this topic sentence is too long. And I say, it looks long, but it may look long, but you can basically avoid reading this part because the writer tells you so, because it is between a pair of dashes. And that means it's an optional read. It's an optional element. You can read it or you can just ignore it. You can skip this part and read the rest. What matters here is that there are two reasons why the writer counters the opposing side's view. Firstly, there is no scientific evidence with which those who play with white pawns on the chessboard, can prove their assertion. In other words, no experimental data so far has been published in medical journals successful to relate there's some missing elements here. No experimental data so far has been published in medical journals which successfully relate to the mentioned disorders with GM foods. Having this in mind, we can therefore, with another E, count on genetically engineered, good word, foods to feed the ever-increasing population of the world. I love it that at the end of these paragraphs, we have a concluding sentence, which is totally optional. The paragraph is not that long, so writing a concluding sentence is completely optional, but we have a concluding sentence telling us that, yeah, these genetically engineered foods can help people survive, can control hunger in the world. I have one small issue. In this paragraph, we talked about two compelling justifications and we mentioned only one. I assume the second one, yes, is in the other paragraph. That will affect the paragraphing score a little bit because we were supposed to talk about one here and the other here. If this was, this was the topic sentence that I wanted to choose, in that case, I would have removed this third paragraph and added it to the rest of this. Like exactly, you only cut the third body paragraph and add it to this second body paragraph. In that case, you didn't need to change any elements here. Let's move on. Due to the increased quality and resistance of these crops, they are highly likely to save those reside in developing countries where a lack of modern agricultural methods and practice, investments, and infrastructures put the people in danger of famine and starvation. Beautiful words. Wow, I'm in love. This is great. In African countries, for example, GM foods can be cultivated in the deteriorated soil without any special need for fertilizers, pesticides, wow, or agricultural techniques, which means, I need a comma before this, which, abundant food for the huge population. Wow, I'm blown away. This third body paragraph is by far my most favorite body paragraph, with the vocabulary and the control over the grammar and also the messaging. I love it. I am following the writer's logic, and I'm happy that the writer is crushing it, crushing the opponent. If it were the game of chess, the writer would have won. In conclusion, although some hold the idea that GM foods are serious dangers, I find their merits more than the demerits. Period. I do believe that hardly can people of Earth survive living without the help of GM foods. The last sentence uses inversion. I do believe that from this part on. Hardly can people, instead of saying people can hardly, people of the earth can hardly survive, instead you can say hardly can people of earth survive living without the help of GM foods. Beautiful. 347 words. I can't wait to actually look at the band descriptors. So I don't think there is anything else I would like to add for the conclusion. There are 2 sentences. It's a paragraph. It's classic and to the point. There is a mention of the opposing side, and there's a mention of the writer's own beliefs. I do not see the exact metrics, like firstly and secondly, that the writer told us about. I wish we could see them here in the conclusion as just as something to refresh your memory. With all this information in mind, let's look at the band descriptors. What can I tell you here? Paragraphing is not 9 because of the issues I told you. Each paragraph needs to have its own identity. I also noticed that the organization of the information was 100% logical, not sequential. I wish we could have those sequence of events clearly stated in the conclusion. The task response has the top score. Yeah, it's the highest among all the elements. Everything is well developed. One element that I would add to this, just to make it 100%, I mean 9 out of 9, is to focus more on both production and marketing. So on both elements, the methods that they were produced, and also more emphasis on marketing and distributing it among people. It wasn't 100% in all paragraphs, in all elements. That's all. Otherwise, it's very close to a 9. Really, really close. I didn't have any issue with the range of vocabulary. It was wide. To the point, some elements were just genre specific, like fertilizer, pesticides. These are not easy words. And then I also need to say that we had many errors. Maybe many is a bit unfair. Some errors, and the errors did not affect communication, but it was very close. A little risky. A little risky. And as for grammatical range and accuracy, I can say that the range was varied. I only encountered some occasional punctuation mistakes, which really did not affect anything, but we needed to include those punctuation marks. And we also noticed one subject-verb disagreement that we fixed it. So we understood later on that the verb refers to something else, and that was okay. So I'm not going to mention it here. All in all, lovely. It's a 7 and it deserves a 7. The way that it can get the higher score would be to focus on correcting vocabulary here. So if the vocabulary is corrected and it goes from 6 to 8, you easily get 7.5. Or if the vocabulary is fixed and we also work a little bit on the organization of the paragraphs, and this becomes 8, and this becomes 7, we can get to 7.5. So the focus should be, I believe, should be on lexical resource and cohesion. For grammatical range and accuracy to go higher, we need a couple of some advanced grammatical structures added to the whole system. So one inversion is fine, but it's very isolated. We needed a couple more so that you feel the writer knows how to very well and flexibly change sentence structures. On that note, If you wish to see more videos, click over here and you will see more assessments of this type, and you can get a sense of other essay assessments, letter assessments, or report assessments based on the module that you're taking. And don't forget to subscribe. I hope I'll be assessing your representative next. Bye for now.